CVM TV.
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
To the surprise of nobody, there's no fanfare around the celebration of International Men's Day, no celebration of note in Jamaica. That in itself tells a story. Us men, marginalized, we're taken for granted. People expect all things from us, and they give very little in return. Not even a happy International Men's Day. Not many women would have done that to the men in their offices and in their spaces of enjoyment or entertainment on this day. And that's a topic we're going to talk about on Lee's Story today on CVM TV. Men and their standing in society. What role do men have to claim for themselves, and how can we ensure that we continue to fight, to struggle through, to plow on, even amidst the lack of fanfare and appreciation for what we do? Let's go. Welcome to Lead Story on CVM TV on this Tuesday. It's International Men's Day, and yes, my office, they gave us a donut each, which I thank them for. But if we were at International Women's Day, you'd have had symposiums all about, you'd have had officials sending out statements talking about women. But, you know, the man continues to be beat upon by society, underappreciated, even as he continues to carry the nation on his back. And I said it, yes, it's as James Brown sang so famously many years ago, it is indeed a man's world. We own all the problems, we're expected to solve all the problems, and we're expected to do so. We're not expected to cry, we're not expected to waver, we're not expected to ask for help. If we ask for a glass of water, we're told that we're complaining, and it's just very difficult being a man, especially in today's society when the line is blurred. Some people not sure of what they are, and that's a part of the problem. It's still time for a man to stand up and claim his own territory. That's a lot from me. Today, my guest, as we look at International Men's Day, and ask the question, you know, how can the man receive even more appreciation for what he does? Bishop Alvin Bailey, he's pastor of the Portmore Holiness Church, chairman of Jamaica Cause. And my other guest is Damian Hilton. He is the Deputy Chief Party, Winrock International, a USAID supporting victims of violence project. So, Bishop, welcome to the program. Damian, welcome.
Thanks for having me, George. Welcome, Bishop, as well. I know Bishop has been doing a lot of great work himself. So, good to be on a panel with Bishop and Mr. Miller from the Bureau of Gender Affairs.
Excellent. We're trying to get Mr. Miller's, Nashon's video sorted out. But for the time being, Bishop, good evening once again. The man in society in 2024, the man is under more pressure than at any other time in history, Bishop. And there are so many people who are telling the man how he should feel about himself. What should the man be in today's world from your perspective?
I'm tempted to say that the man, first of all, must be a man. You know, the symbol of masculinity has certainly been eroded, and those things that characterize maleness have certainly taken on a different perspective. Speaking of the values and attitude that should characterize a man in society is slowly eroding. Things like, you know, reverence, discipline, self-respect. And might I add, since I'm speaking from the perspective of being a pastor, you know, all that tends to work through Christian manliness is certainly being eroded, and so man has lost the image of masculinity, and that is one of the main problems. Man himself is like his major enemy.
Damian, thank you for that opening, Bishop. Damian, do you get the impression that...
I'm not hearing you.
No, I'm putting the question to Damien, Bishop. I acknowledge their contribution and I thank you for your opening statement. I'm going to Damien now to ask him if he believes that the man of today, being assailed from all sides by all kinds of voices telling him all kinds of ways about how he should feel about himself, whether the man is losing his place, not just in society, but in his own mind.
It's interesting that you pitched your question that way, George, because the theme for International Men's Day 2024 is actually men's health champions and emphasizing improving men's overall well-being and promoting healthy lifestyles. And I think at the level of our mental health as males, and to Bishop's point, the issue of an identity crisis and how men, especially in our context, in the Jamaican society, are primarily the victims of violence and also the main perpetrators of violence against each other. It speaks to an issue that is largely mental, psychological in nature, that manifests itself in aggressive behavior. But then we also see features of that being played out in the context of our education system, in our universities. Less males are matriculating in our universities. More males are dropping out at the high school level. So we see that we are having a problem that is spanning a number of sectors. And I believe, along with Bishop's point, that there needs to be a redefinition of what healthy manhood looks like. We have lost our way in part because of a kind of toxic masculinity that has probably defined maleness to a lot of our young men. If you're not rough and tough and you're not gangster, and if you not wear your pants below your waist, and if you're not bleach, and if you're not tattoo up. And so there's been a kind of shift away from a masculinity that speaks about responsibility, a masculinity that emphasizes getting a good education and becoming an upstanding person in society, family and family life being important. And we have given kind of credence to enough gal in a bungle concept of masculinity, and over time there's been an erosion of the male identity in our society. And so we need to revisit that, and I agree with you, there is a mental aspect to it that we have to prioritize. Men tend to shy away from health-seeking behaviors, and a part of that is our mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. So hold it there, gentlemen. Let me take a break here on Lead Story and come right back and pick up the conversation and add Nashon to the discussion as well.
Join the JPS Foundation at the Climate Action Conference and Expo on November 30 at the Chinese Benevolent Association, hosted by CJ Sparks and Paula Ann Porter-Jones. Explore Sustainability City, meet our Power Up Energy Club Innovation Challenge finalists, and check out career options at the Career Corner. Test drive electric cars and dive into cutting-edge tech. Plus, our immersive teaching tunnel will show you how you can take action for a sustainable future. Follow us on IG and Facebook at JPS Foundation to learn more.
Hey you know all the people in your business?
You should take advantage of CVM TV's unbeatable small business advertising package. Trust me.
And get your goods and services in front of your customers today.
For $150,000, you get a high-quality professional commercial.
Plus 20 prime-time commercial spots.
That's massive exposure at a fraction of the cost.
Including on the #1 morning show in Jamaica, Sunrise.
So don't wait. Call us on 658-208-5377 and see your business goals happen right here on CVM Television.
Back with us on Lee's Story, talking about the Jamaican man on this International Men's Day, global commemoration of this day. They wanted to do this from 1992, but in 1999, a Trinidadian is the one who set this in motion. And since then, we've had cause to celebrate the contribution of men to society, men as role models, men as caregivers, men as protectors, men as providers, men as warriors, men as mental health leaders, and men as morality and dignity examples, exemplars for those around them in their immediate environment and even broader. Nashan Miller, Director of Male Empowerment Bureau, Director of Male Empowerment rather, at the Bureau of Gender Affairs, he joins the discussion now. Nashan, good evening.
Good evening, George.
Right, you joined us late, but you're here. Happy you're here. Nashan, here's the thing. Is the Jamaican man precisely being misguided by the fact that men have always wanted to please women, but that the kind of man that more women seem to appreciate and enjoy, that kind of appreciation is causing a conflict in the minds of men and males about how they should act, given that finding favor with women is so important to the man, and that may be causing some confusion insofar as how he carries himself, wanting to stay true to his natural instincts, but also wanting to find favor with the females. Is this causing some confusion, my friend, you would say?
Most definitely. So I've been having discussion in terms of, some of the pressures men are placed under by society, by other men, and by women, of course. One of the message I don't subscribe to is this whole thing about a real man or the need to man up. So we find where men are constantly pressured to fit into this box of what it is to be a real man. You're born a man, as far as I'm concerned, you're born a male, you grow from a boy child into a man. Come with our flaws. Yes, we're not perfect. We have our trauma, we have our issues, but we're nevertheless men. Yes? So what you find is that persons have been using this thing about a real man as a manipulative tool, where today I'm a real man if I'm able to do this and that, but if I'm unable tomorrow, I'm no longer a real man. So that places so much pressure on males in terms of living up to these expectations. As I say, men do it and women also do it. And from my perspective, I just talk about, let us not place all of this pressure on each other. And when women do this, let us not conform to this to believe that you're not a man. You're a man and you come with everything, who you are, appreciate yourself, understand yourself, love yourself, and know that you're a man no matter the situation.
Yeah. Bishop, is this confusion of identity among men all across society, is it as real as Nashan Miller has just put it just now?
Absolutely real. As a matter of fact, we are coming to realize that being considered a man goes more than just the fact that you were born without male genitalia and that you wear pants and shirts. It is way beyond that. As a matter of fact, if that was what was being dependent on to define a man, then we are in even total confusion. I mean, there were days when being a man just near the fact you had on pants and shirt. Now we realize that sometimes we confuse the issues because the external doesn't necessarily determine who you are. And maleness had to do with sense of values, leadership, institutions of socialization, how you model that, if you ask me, archaic or original definition of what maleness means, being a leader, being the source of strength. As a matter of fact, there is often, over the years I've been attending meetings and it is said that a man don't cry. Because in our society, maleness is a strength and stability and firmness was inseparable from being a man. And as you force a man to identify with the things that symbolize weakness like tears and so on, kind of emasculates him. What was necessary was support and strength rather than tears falling. And I think we make the confusion and confuse these issues, and right now, there's a struggle, first of all, for the male identity, not only for him to identify himself, but for a person to identify him and what he really means. Because it goes beyond, as I said before, pants and shirt. It is really that which would cause the opposite gender and children who are yet to be formed to identify what it means to have the leader, the person who is a symbol of being a mentor in our society. So there's a real confusion that we have to go back to.
Yeah, hear you on that. Hold it right there, gentlemen. Let me take a final break and come right back. This is Lead Story, CVM TV.
The time by Grace. Taste that moves you is
6:45. These days, challenges are everywhere and things are constantly changing, but independent living remains the same. Rising above physical challenges, we can help you do it. For years, we have been Jamaica's trusted provider for solutions to improve patient care, safety, and general quality of life. No matter your age or your physical limitation, we are the caring store, waiting to serve you. It's time to experience independent living. Visit us today.
You know my heart goes crazy when you take the lips to time. Let's explore our love. We'll leave the world behind. Can you feel
Schoolboy Football, September 7 to December 14 on CVM TV. It's a Schoolboy Football is brought to you by EdgeChem, AIM Financial Corporation, Connex Services, Texaco, and Jamaica Stock Exchange.
International Men's Day sees us talking about the place of men in the Jamaican society and ultimately asking the question, how can we help men to play the roles that they were born to play in a more effective manner? How can we help them to extract more from the natural advantages that they have? Damien Hilton, let me ask you this as we wrap up the program. From your perspective, from your experiences, read and otherwise, how do we begin to assist our men here in Jamaica to no longer be the ones left behind? How do we help them to do this?
Well, Nashton made the point earlier about the issue of identity, which was part of what Dr. Bailey had established. I think we need to start by working with our boys in a more direct and concentrated way, and helping them to understand that they are male, and helping them to appreciate their maleness, helping them to appreciate who they are as an individual. Starting there, because it has to be a generational focus. I think for our older men, some of our young men in the society today, who what they identify maleness as is whether you drive a Mark X or and skate on the toe, or whether you identify with certain sects in the dance hall, or whether you bleach and you're tattooed. I think we need to pull people in a conversation about their value and worth that transcends the material and not merely focuses on image, but more on character. I think policymakers also need to recognize, as we talk about gender equity and social inclusion, we cannot go to the extreme of having our policies and our programs targeting women in a way that brings women into the mainstream more, while at the same time marginalizing males, because that is the risk of going to the other extreme. So policies must also recognize culturally and societally that we need to give more opportunities to males. We need to have opportunities, whether it is in art, NSTA, which is government funded, or even private sector focused opportunities that target the male population in a particular way. Jamaica has 49.58% males, just under 50%. If males are doing well, the society is also going to do well, right? Similarly, if females are doing well, the society will do well. So what we need to do is have programming that is targeting our males in a direct way. We need to focus on our young boys that are coming up. We need to address the issues that have been traumatic, that have not been addressed. Many of our men suffer from father wounds and mother wounds that have created trauma that rob them of the ability to connect well with their spouses, connect well with their children, connect well with society at large. And so we need to put programming in place that allows for men. We need to meet them where men are at Cayman Spark. Men are at bars. Men are at the go-go clubs. We need to meet men where they are and have conversations with men that remove some of the kind of formalities and bring men more into the center of the discussion around their role as transformative agents in society. When a man feels like he can add value to a space, and when a man feels like he's important, that man will make every attempt to be the best man that he can be.
Hear you on that. Nashan, some people will say, you know, it should start with the children, and what we should do, we need to hug boys more, we need to encourage them to cry, and if we do this and help them connect with their inner feelings, this is a way to help boys to be better men in the future and create a more refined man than that which is defined by toxic masculinity. Is that the way to go, you suggest, Nashan Miller? I'm not hearing him. I'm not hearing him. All right, let me go to Bishop Alvin Bailey. I put the same issue to you, Bishop Bailey.
It seems like we have lost Nasha for a while. But George, I don't think we need to go the direction that you just described. We need to appreciate our boys and our young men for who they are. Hugging your son is quite fine. Kissing your son is quite fine. Teaching your son how to embrace emotion and how to express emotion is quite fine. I think what we need to do more is recognize that we are living in a context where a lot of our males have not been given the ability to express themselves in healthy ways and don't know how to express themselves in healthy ways, and create more spaces for that healthy expression of man-to-man or man-to-woman relationships. We need to get more of those healthy expressions in our schools, in our workplaces, in our places of play. Policymakers need to look at how fathers, for example, can benefit from certain things as a father. We talk about paternal leave, something that, you know, has been on the table, bringing men more into the mainstream of our policy making so that men can play their part in the development of this country.
Hear you on that. From the seat that you occupy, Bishop Bailey, I know that you've been the champion for many initiatives in the past. How do you, from the perspective of the clergy, help men to connect with who they are, to play the role intended for them in the society? How do we bring them back?
I mean, in our motherland, there's a time that in the life of the male that is called the rite of passage, when he would identify moving from boyhood to manhood. And that was no dolly house. It was a situation which caused him to distinguish himself and take a position of strength. But we have found that the way from male and man to get back to the place of prominence, a place of positive identity, where you don't have to define it by putting real before manhood, is to go to the traditional institutions where the man distinguishes himself as man, the place of as provider, as being a husband, being father, and being role model. We have to get back to, and the church does exactly that. The church, the object of the church is the advancement of Christ's kingdom and the promotion of habits, obedience, reverence, discipline, self-respect, and a kind of godliness, embracing one's dignity and subscribing to those values that makes him, in fact, proud to be who he is without a confusion of his identity. Of course, we know that the Bible is accused of being very matriarchal, a patriarchal rather, and we see God as a man and God as male and God as masculine. And that was not to disenfranchise women, but because men to see himself as one who is distinct, different, and indeed ought to take responsibility for his work, leadership, and the places of socialization.
I hear you on that. Damien, lastly, is the world in general becoming more I don't want to say effeminate, but women are encouraged to connect with their inner feelings and be vulnerable and being emotional, and men are being encouraged to do just the same thing. So where will the backbone, where will be the testosterone bastion come from? Or does society even need that anymore as it did in generations ago? You don't have much time, Damien, but answer that for me.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with being in touch with your feelings and being strong. The two things are not mutually incompatible. And I think that's one of the mistakes we have made. Right? George, you're very much in touch with your emotions. I listen to you on the radio, having all kind of expression, different type of emotions, and I would consider you a very strong man and a part of the backbone of our society, being a part of the fourth estate.
Yes.
So I think what we need to avoid is going to an extreme where we are qualifying who a man is by virtue of whether or not he expresses himself in a certain way, or he looks a certain way, or he drives a certain car, or he lives in a certain community. We need to start by appreciating the man, first and foremost, because he's a male, made in the image of God, and then we move from that baseline to working with men to become who God made them to be.
Absolutely so. Gentlemen, we're out of time. Thank you, Bishop Maley. Thank you, Damien. All the best to you. We had Nashan earlier, but his line had the devil in it, and we were not able to complete the conversation. I'll say that men need nurturing, men need support, men need to be taken seriously. The partners, the men, the wives and girlfriends and the mothers, you need to show more appreciation to the boys, to the men in your homes. Know that the society can't function effectively with women alone. It needs both genders playing their roles that they were intended to play, and there should be no prevarication or there should be no wavering about the roles that people are intended to play, because it is by playing specific roles and playing them well that we'll have the kind of harmony that will lead to the betterment of society. And you know, I love the women, as you all know, but look, I'm a champion for men, because it is us that hold the society together. Women will say it is them that hold the society together. Together, we both hold the society together. That's why men can't resile from the role that they ought to play in Project Jamaica, in Project World. That's my time. Nico Lewis is standing by, literally standing by, with the news at 7.
Give me a little.
Our days get a little complex sometimes. Often so many things make sense, yet so many do not. We are being intentional about giving prominence to the big stories in order to clarify and enlighten. Lead Story explains who, what, when, where, why, and how. Lead Story with George Davis, weekdays at 6:30 p.m. on CVM TV. No more fear of missing out. CVM TV News is on YouTube. Get up-to-date news, sports, and business content at CVM TV News anytime, anywhere. Subscribe now to CVM TV News to see it happen.
This week on Central Expressions.
Today we're out here in Mother Nature. Here at
CVM TV News. At CVM TV News anytime, anywhere. Subscribe now to CVM TV News to see it happen.
Small business owners and independent contractors get affordable insurance with Sagicor Pro Shield. The time by Sagicor Life is
7 o'clock. CVM News at 7 headlines Tuesday, courtesy of Heart NSTA Trust, Jamaica's Human Development Agency.
Tonight in CVM News at 7. Body-worn cameras back in focus after police charged in triple fatal shooting. PNP challenges PM's protest exploitation claims. Minister Johnson Smith to lead delegation to Georgetown, Guyana. And also this evening in the Business Report, GK Financial Group makes major AI announcement. While in sports, CVM TV named exclusive free-to-air broadcasters of JPL.
News at 7 headlines Tuesday, courtesy of Heart NSTA Trust, Jamaica's Human Development Agency.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
CVM News at 7 Tuesday, brought to you by KFC.
KFC's popcorn chicken, now available in barbecue. KFC, it's finger-licking good.
From Kingston, Jamaica, this is CVM News at 7. I'm Nika Lewis. It's Tuesday, November 19, 2024. Thanks so much for having joined us. We begin with a matter on the police. The Jamaica Constabulary Force's Constable Wavell Phillips appeared in the St. James Parish Court on Monday, November 18, to face charges of murder and using a firearm to commit a felony. The charges stemmed from an independent Commission of Investigations probe into the fatal off-duty shooting of 33-year-old Cadmar Beadle at a Montego Bay bar on May 13, 2022. Constable Phillips was arrested after returning to Jamaica 7 months following a ruling by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. He was granted bail in the sum of $400,000 and is scheduled to return to court on December 4. In the meantime, in a developing story, the man charged with the abduction and subsequent murder of St. Catherine resident and teacher Daniel Anglin is dead. In what's a suspected case of suicide, authorities say Lascelles Morgan was found hanging in his cell last week and has since succumbed. Morgan, who was allegedly operating as a taxi operator, reportedly abducted Ms. Anglin in May this year while on her way to work. The incident resulted in a manhunt that was led by detectives from the St. Catherine South Division's CIB. Morgan was eventually captured in an operation at a beach on Port Henderson Road in Portmore by the division's Special Operations Unit. Forensics, telecom and canines were utilized to find the remains of the victim. After overwhelming evidence was presented to him, he reportedly confessed to the murder. Morgan was later charged by Detective Sergeant Melanie Williams of the division's Proactive Investigations Unit. Sources close to the matter say he never expressed remorse for the murder. He had, however, previously served sentences for sexual offenses. In other news now, the People's National Party PNP has countered Prime Minister Andrew Holness's remarks about political interference in recent tourism sector protests. The PNP's statement follows the latest strike action by workers at a Trelawney hotel, highlighting ongoing concerns over wages and working conditions. With the latest, here's Shante McNeil.
Constabulary Force members, Corporal Mark. The opposition People's National Party has pushed back against Prime Minister Andrew Holness's assertions that recent protests in the tourism industry are being politically exploited. The latest rebuttal follows Monday's industrial action by workers at the Excellence Oyster Bay Hotel in Trelawney. Employees protested low wages and poor working conditions, joining a growing wave of unrest in the sector. In a media release issued Tuesday, opposition leader Mark Golding declared his party's unwavering commitment to advocating for workers' rights.
It is frankly disrespectful to the serious concerns of tourism workers to suggest that they are being politically manipulated when they take action to have their grievances addressed. Instead of the Prime Minister seeking to pass the buck by blaming the People's National Party for the current unrest in the sector, he should take responsibility for failing to address these issues in the sector over the last 9 years. The PNP will continue to advocate for the protection of workers' rights.
Golding attributed the unrest to systematic poor governance.
For too long, the Minister of Tourism has neglected the critical needs of the local industry. The high cost of living, inadequate transportation for tourism workers, and poor road conditions have placed tremendous pressure on hotel operators and workers, bringing the situation to the current boiling point.
The PNP leader is now urging the government to act decisively to protect the tourism industry.
I therefore call for a comprehensive analysis of the industry as a matter of urgency and a cohesive response from the Ministries of Labour, Tourism and Transport to address the various challenges facing the sector. We must work collaboratively to ensure the tourism industry remains a vital contributor to Jamaica's economy while safeguarding the dignity and well-being of those who drive its success.
Tourism remains one of the country's largest macroeconomic and foreign exchange earners. Shante McNeil, CVM News.
Back on the crime scene now, 2 policemen are facing serious charges following a high-profile investigation into a deadly shooting earlier this month. The incident has sparked renewed calls for greater accountability in law enforcement, including the use of body-worn cameras. Here again is Shante McNeil.
2 Jamaica Constabulary Force members, Corporal Mark Roy and Constable Kelby White, have been charged in connection with the November 10 fatal shooting of 3 young men along Windward Road. The charges stemming from an Indicom investigation and a ruling by the Director of Public Prosecutions include 3 counts of murder, using a firearm to commit a felony, and perverting the course of justice. The officers are accused of making false reports and allegedly planting a firearm at the scene. The incident has reignited calls from Jamaicans for Justice JFJ to mandate body-worn cameras for police officers. And while Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang recently downplayed their value, JFJ Executive Director Michael Jackson highlighted how recent CCTV footage helped expedite this case, stressing the urgent need for activated body cams during police operations.
It really drives home the importance of body-worn cameras and the independent account that it provides. So for us, we are reminded the Jamaica Constabulary Force and its leadership that it ought to mandate its officers to act based on what is in the standard operating procedures governing body-worn cameras, where once they are outfitted and wearing the cameras, they must activate them.
While acknowledging the progress in police accountability, Jackson underscored that many fatal encounters still go unrecorded, leaving questions unanswered.
The fact that we have seen 166 civilians killed by members of the security forces as at November 18, that's since January, then it really is an alarming figure, and it also demonstrates that we are making some regression. We are regressing in some respect, because 166 civilians killed by security forces without any footage from body-worn cameras is an alarming number.
The lawmen are set to appear in court this week as the matter unfolds. Shante McNeil, CVM News.
Sunday evening for many is generally spent relaxing, but for residents in the Torrington Park housing development, it was spent on a downward trajectory. Adrian Williams tells us more about how things spiraled out of control.
A staircase should carry steps in the right direction. But for residents in the Torrington Park housing scheme in Kingston, those steps have become treacherous. One resident tells of the unfortunate tale, as she says she was sitting on the steps when it collapsed.
I'm sitting down there and I see my granddaughter now throw something on the rubbish heap. So I was waiting on her to come back. So I put with some food for throw away. I was waiting on her to come back. So while I'm waiting down there, I only feel the step just collapse. with me. I go find myself downstairs.
And which floor you live on?
Second floor.
Live on the second floor?
Yeah. And I end up on the ground floor.
Because you got any injury? What happened when you fell in?
I lift my head and little jerk up my back and the finger here. And the pain of the finger.
So currently, several families have been cut off from accessing their home, some taking the chance and others climbing a ladder to get where they have to go.
Yeah, girl.
Divisional Duty Officer for the Kingston Western Division, Inspector Horatio Lowe, reports on how emergency responders have aided.
And what has happened here today at the Torrington Park 4-storage building is that the stairway for the second floor has lost its integrity, resulting in several persons would have been trapped on the inside. What we do is to secure the scene and have the relevant authority, which is the Jamaica Fire Brigade, headed by SP, the SP of the Trenchtown and the York Park Division. They came and rendered assistance to the people of Torrington Park.
Member of Parliament for South St. Andrew, Mark Goulding, is disturbed that this issue, which has been happening for years, was slated to be repaired last year, but the request was blocked within the government procurement process.
I think that where there's a situation where people's lives are endangered by a structure, it's a government structure, I don't think the procurement system should be able to take a decision to block the procurement based on some assessment from reading a document. They should come and have a look, because I don't believe they came to see it. As I said, a year ago, we had the community building to start the project, to sensitize the people that the project was going to start, and it never did start. To my mind, there needs to be a greater connection between the bureaucrats who are making these decisions and what's actually happening on the ground.
Occupants of the building affected are being urged to avoid using what is left of the staircase. Adrian Williams reporting for CVM News.
There's more to come from CVM News at 7 right after this break.
Whatever the crunch you want with KFC's popcorn chicken. Delicious, juicy, irresistible. Now available in barbecue. KFC, it's finger-licking good.
Let's take a trip to the future. Join the JPS Foundation at the Climate Action Conference and Expo on November 30 at the Chinese Benevolent Association. Hosted by CJ Sparks and Paula Ann Porter-Jones. Explore Sustainability City, meet our Power Up Energy Club Innovation Challenge finalists. And check out career options at the Career Corner. Test drive electric cars and dive into cutting-edge tech. Plus, our immersive teaching tunnel will show you how you can take action for a sustainable future. Follow us on IG and Facebook at JPS Foundation to learn more.
Welcome back. The Department of Correctional Services has suspended visitations to all adult and juvenile correctional facilities until December 2. This following reports of the influenza virus in 2 prisons and the deaths of 2 inmates who exhibited flu-like symptoms. While the Department of Correctional Services is making efforts to contain the virus, the recent incidents have raised concern for the state of Jamaica's correctional facilities and how to improve them. Courtney Lewis breaks down the situation and tells us what advocates are saying in this report.
Cases of the influenza virus in Jamaica's correctional facilities have halted visitation until December 2. The Department of Correctional Services Monday raised the alarm, saying management of the virus is paramount.
The medical team has been providing coverage at the various institutions daily. Even up to Sunday, we deployed medical officers as well as medical assistants to the St. Catherine Adult Correctional Center, where we have had the 2 deaths. We are also working in conjunction with the St. Catherine Health Department to investigate the illnesses as well as to provide medical care and to plot the way forward.
Medical Director of the DCS, Dr. Pau, says management of symptoms and isolation for inmates is the order of the day. But with limited resources, the main concern is overcrowding.
There are concerns about the actual sanitation of the lockups, the quality of the food that the inmates receive. So some of those things we believe would contribute to the spread of disease.
It's why Jade Williams, policy analyst for the JFJ, is suggesting improved infrastructure in correctional facilities and lockups in maintaining human rights.
To see cells constantly clean, to see that inmates have access to clean running water, to see that there are proper sanitation facilities, including toilets and bathrooms, to see that cells hold the appropriate amounts of inmates and have proper ventilation, to ensure that there is pest infestation management in these facilities.
While Williams calls for greater adherence to policies, Dr. Poe is urging maximization of resources.
We do need a new correctional center with state-of-the-art facilities, but we are trying to provide the best with what we have.
The DCS says it has increased their staff complement and offers a range of medical, psychological, and specialized services for inmates. Courtney Lewis for CVM News.
Jamaica's Foreign Affairs Minister, Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, is set to represent the nation on the global stage at a significant diplomatic summit in Guyana. The high-level meeting follows Prime Minister Andrew Holness's recent talks with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, which set the stage for deeper collaboration between the two nations. Here with more is Ramon Gordon.
Foreign Affairs Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith will lead Jamaica's delegation to the second CARICOM India Summit in Georgetown, Guyana, on Wednesday, November 20. The summit, co-chaired by Grenada's Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, marks the first standalone meeting between CARICOM leaders and India within a CARICOM member state. Smith says discussions will focus on shared priorities.
One of the things that I look forward to updating you on is our support for the Ministry of Health as we work to try to find ways to bring down the cost of medication for all our Jamaican citizens and the Caribbean region as well. We're also looking at how we can support the Ministry of Health's prosthetics program, which you know has been changing lives all across the island.
During his visit from September 30 to October 3, Prime Minister Andrew Holness engaged in talks with Prime Minister Modi, resulting in agreements to enhance cooperation in digital public infrastructure, cultural exchange, and sports. The two leaders identified key areas for strengthening bilateral relations, including digitization, sports, trade, infrastructure, and capacity building.
The areas for discussion are not only of importance to all CARICOM citizens, but they intersect in several aspects with Jamaica's fruitful and productive bilateral engagements in India recently. We will therefore seek to follow up and build on areas identified both during Prime Minister Holness's visit to India as well as a CARICOM India Joint Commission meeting held earlier this month. And we will, of course, explore additional areas.
CARICOM says the upcoming summit aims to reinforce India's role as a key development partner for its member states. The inaugural CARICOM India Summit was held in New York in 2019 on the margins of the 74th session of the United Nations General Assembly. Since then, India has introduced community development projects across the region, benefiting countries like Jamaica. Ramon Gordon for CVM News.
Now, the United Way of Jamaica is supporting farmers in their recovery from the destruction caused by Hurricane Beryl. As part of its latest initiative, the organization has provided nearly 100 farmers in Clarendon with baby chicks and feed to help restore the island's food supply. With more, here's Britannia Witter.
The United Way of Jamaica, in partnership with the Jamaica Agricultural Society, distributed baby chicks and feed to 90 farmers in Clarendon. The initiative aimed at supporting farmers recovering from the devastation of Hurricane Beryl was launched earlier this year. It comes as a part of the ongoing efforts to raise $20 million to assist agricultural communities across the country in rebuilding their livelihoods. The parishes of St. Elizabeth, Manchester, and Clarendon were severely impacted by the storm, which caused widespread damage to crops and livestock. Recognizing the critical role agriculture plays in the economy, the UWJ has prioritized these areas for aid. this time focusing on helping farmers restore their poultry farms.
We know that Clarendon is one of the leading providers of chicken, of poultry in Jamaica. So we're here with supporting 90 farmers with baby chicks and feeding. We were also here today was Hypro. And Hypro, had a good sensitization session as to how to better care for their chicken.
Farmers expressed their gratitude, citing the significance of the support in the wake of the hurricane's destruction. Many of them had lost valuable livestock and crops, making it difficult to regain their footing.
I'm very grateful. The coop got wet. I have to do a lot of things to see how I can get them warm and get them up and running.
Well, I feel good about this today because we get something that can help us.
Meanwhile, the JAS reiterated its commitment to the long-term recovery of the local agricultural sector.
As you know that these three parishes, Clarendon, Manchester, and St. Elizabeth, they were the worst in the first hurricane. So we really focus on trying to help them. And then we will be moving around to the other parishes as well to give what assistance we can give.
Dobson also urged other stakeholders to lend support where possible. Britannia Witter, CVM News.
There's so much more right after this break.
Improving our relationship with you.
The Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency, PICA, is improving its relationship with you, our valued customer. Our new customer relationship management system will help us to better understand your needs, communicate with you, and address your issues faster. Contact us online and let us help you. The new system is a joint project of PICA and the Transformation Implementation Unit.
Improving our relationship.
Building a better public sector for all. Let's take a trip to the future. Join the JPS Foundation at the Climate Action Conference and Expo on November 30 at the Chinese Benevolent Association. Hosted by CJ Sparks and Paula Ann Porter-Jones. Explore Sustainability City, meet our Power Up Energy Club Innovation Challenge finalists. And check out career options at the Career Corner. Test drive electric cars and dive into cutting-edge tech. Plus, our immersive teaching tunnel will show you how you can take action for a sustainable future. Follow us on IG and Facebook at JPS Foundation to learn more.
That jacket! When was you into Temptation? Steve knows style. Family Feud.
Brought to you by We Are the Caring Store, waiting to serve you. It's time to experience independent living. Visit us today.
Welcome back. It's now time for the Business Report with Joel Crosskill.
Lots to share with you in the Business Report today, as the BR provides a peek into the recent first-of-its-kind GK Capital event under the theme Seeking Alpha, where a selection of specifically invited financiers were encouraged to opine on the local investment landscape, with the business heads of GK Capital Management led by Stephen Whittingham, Deputy CEO of GK Financial Group.
I've always said to my guys and the team, how do you successfully manage through change? And there are three things for me: strategy, innovation, and execution. Three things: strategy, innovation, and execution. And it's the same thing for the investment world in which we operate in. How do we help you navigate change? Strategy, innovation, execution. Strategy, that just means we come up with a plan, okay? But here at Grace Kennedy, at GK Capital, that plan is based on in-depth research that we find by delving deeply into the topics that we're looking for and uncover patterns that help us create value.
Relating to innovation, Whittingham said that it's about, quote, anticipating future trends and, in an increasingly complex world, challenging traditional assumptions and designing differentiated solutions. The format, which allowed for the beta testing of concepts within the auspicious gathering, as a range of interesting trends were explored, including digital transformation, as well as the growing prominence of non-traditional assets.
I do know that if you take a look at the S&P 500 and all of the companies on S&P 500, and you look at their balance sheets, 40 years ago, those balance sheets were filled with tangible assets, trucks, machinery, plant, equipment. Today, those balance sheets are filled with intangible assets, intellectual property, right? Things that are difficult to get your hands around, things that over the course of a year can be written down to nothing if technology changes, if industry changes. So you're operating in an environment where you said, I know this company, I look at what they have, I see their assets, I feel comfortable investing in it. Today, the intellectual property that these companies have is very, very difficult to manage and to understand, and so we need help.
Additionally, the discourse provided an opportunity to run the gamut in seeking deltas that may exist within the GK Group's ambition to exceed its current zenith as the 8th largest company by market cap on the JSE and orient the GK Financial Group towards its intention to establish itself as a pace setter in financial innovation and responsiveness.
I will never forget the first day that I walked into the trading room at BlackRock on 51st Street in New York. The BlackRock at the time had $197 billion of assets under management. Today it has 11 trillion, right? 10 trillion going to 11. I walked into that room and I described it as nothing less spectacular than what I saw in Star Trek as like the Starship Enterprise. You saw 100 people with 4 monitors trying to identify opportunities in the marketplace, right? And that's the market in which we are competing in. And so, do you go into battle alone, or do you go into battle with trusted parties beside you, people you can rely on to help you?
The BR also reserved this potentially industry-changing announcement from the GK Financial Group Deputy CEO for you to consider before we close.
We are launching an AI tool at GK Capital that was developed in-house by GK Capital, which will be one of the leading financial resources in our market, and we're ready to launch that. And when that comes to market, we're going to have to make a big deal about it, because I have seen it, I have worked with it, and it is truly amazing.
And that was your business report. I'm Joel Crosskill.
We head to a break now, but stay with us for more.
That's it, we're closed. I am so sorry, we only have 3 patties left.
It's a Jamaican thing, but full of flavor. Hey. We set the trend style major. Juicy patty, happy savor. You know the patty nice when we do the juicy patty bones. Patty bones, patty bones, watch your bones, watch your bones. Hot patty, watch your steam. Juicy patty bones, patty bones, patty bones, watch your bones, watch your bones. Juicy patty, ready for we go. From food I keep in our party. Juicy patty, have something for everybody. So patty for nice. Patty bones, watch your bones, watch your bones. Hot patty, watch your steam. Juicy patty bones. Grab your family and do the juicy patty bones.
When tea time come, pana, Mighty is in the building. It's another Why Not Wednesday. Don't miss devotion. Start your Wednesday in Wednesday service. It's gonna be a humbling experience. Then it's time for the parents to kick back in Parents Happy Hour. Calabar Primary and Junior High talks their Parent Fest. NCB stops by with big savings for the holidays with Black Friday deals you can't afford to miss. We'll wrap things with Wags. It's a pawsome fashion show. You've never seen a sunrise quite like this.
KFC's popcorn chicken. Now available in barbecue. KFC, it's finger licking good. The time by KFC is 7:30.
Welcome back. It's now time for regional and international news.
News in the region. There will be no devaluation of the Trinidad and Tobago dollar. That was the strong sentiment from Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley in response to a question in the Parliament about the challenges surrounding the availability and distribution of foreign exchange. We hear more from TTT News.
The amount of foreign exchange available in the banking system, Madam Speaker, in 2023 to 2024 is about the same available in 2014. That is approximately $7 billion US.
He laments rather there's a misalignment between the appetite to spend foreign exchange and the ability to earn foreign exchange.
Of this total, the government directly injects $2.5 billion per year. That's the system that we operate. With the remaining $4.5 billion acquired by the banks directly from the United States dollar earning clients. However, in 2024, there is clearly an increased demand for foreign exchange due to the growth in the economy and an increase over the years in the taste for foreign goods and for the use of online purchasing.
Residents in western Belize are grappling with floodwaters, blocked streets and inundated yards, brought on by Tropical Storm Sarah's persistent rains this weekend. The storm began producing rain over the country on Friday, and by Sunday, when it made landfall, the dams were overflowing, the rivers had broken their banks, and dry lands were covered with floodwaters. Love FM Belize has that report.
We started off early this morning by taking a flyover. We went all the way to the Moyhon and seeing how the water is overflowing. Wherever you go, you just see lots of water flowing, and all of that water is coming into the Kaya district, onto the Belize district, and onto the sea. We saw also here by the Santander farms lots of, probably a few hundred acres of sugar cane underwater. A lot of small farmers have been losing their crops at Mile 7 and those other La Gracia, those small villages. We have a lot of our farmers that grow vegetables. A lot of that is underwater. A lot of damage to infrastructure, to the main roads. Roads into the village streets have been damaged, water systems in some instances. So there's a lot of work ahead of us.
And in international news, a standoff between hundreds of illegal miners in a disused gold mine and police at the shaft's entrance continues in South Africa's northwest province. Volunteers have made little progress in bringing miners to the surface. The government says it's now planning a professional rescue operation. That's after a court ordered police to stop blocking access. We turn to Al Jazeera.
A single harness and a very long rope are all these volunteers have for the rescue operation. Many of them are neighbours or relatives of the miners who've been underground for more than a month. In recent days, they say they've pulled several miners up from the 2-kilometre deep shaft, some of them emaciated and one of them dead.
There is enough police here, but they just come and look at us.